Welcome back to all the students and viewers. In this module, we will be focusing on reproduction with respect to vegetative and sexual reproduction and life cycle pattern of Nephrolepis. So let us start with today's discussion. To begin with, the reproduction of Nephrolepis. So Nephrolepis reproduces by vegetative, asexual and sexual methods. First of all, we will understand that how vegetative reproduction in Nephrolepis is taking place. So it takes place by death and decay process of rhizome. So underground rhizome is there which undergoes decay after its death, and when the progressive death and decay of the older part of the rhizome reaches up to the place of branching, it separates into two branches and continues to grow as separate individuals. So vegetative reproduction is taking place by death and decay of rhizome, and this rhizome or this persistent part of the rhizome which grows into the new plant, and this way the vegetative reproduction is taking place. Then sexual reproduction. The fern plant is sporophyte, means it bears the spores. It reproduces sexually by formation of asexual. Remember this point, asexual spores and why these two contrasting terms are there. Actually, these spores are why called as asexual spores, because these are produced without any mating, without any sexual contact, and these spores actually grow. These spores actually grow and develop into gametophyte, and within this gametophyte the sex organs are there. The male sex organ is there, that is called as antheridium, and female sex organ is there, that is called as archegonium. These are sexually reproduced into sporophyte. So actually the spores are asexual because they are developed without any sexual contact, and after germination of spore there is development of heart-shaped gametophyte, in which here somewhere the male reproductive structures antheridia are there, and near the notch female reproductive structures are there, that is called as archegonia. Now let's see about structure of sporangium. So if you look into this first picture, this is rachis and this is a leaflet. If you have a look in this leaflet, even you can see in this leaflet, small sori are there. Now if this leaf is cut into a section, it will look like this. So I'll change the color so that you can understand. If you look this part, this is actually upper epidermis. If you see, this is lower epidermis. This you can see is placenta. This is indusium. This is protective covering, and these individual oval-shaped structures you can see, these are actually called as sporangia, and this individual sporangium is represented here. So this individual sporangium you can see where it has a stalk, then it has wall layers. These, if you see these wall layers neatly, what you can find out, see these cells, this cell, see this cell, this cell and this cell, where there is thickening from inner side. Okay, and all these cells are called as annulus cells. These are actually thick-walled cells from inner side. And if you look into this part, stomium, where such type of thickening is absent. So these are actually thin-walled cells. Now what happens when this matures? When this matures, these cells starts losing water, and due to loss of water they get shrunk. Now what happens, as you can see that these are thick-walled cells, and as you can see these are thin-walled cells. These cells lose its position, and actually this part is completely gets broken, and now this is open. So once this is open, these spores are getting dispersed from this sporangium, and this individual spore is represented here. Actually, this one spore is there, that is a spore mother cell which is diploid, and actually this undergoes meiosis. Here you can understand like this. These are spore mother cells which are diploid, and they are undergoing meiosis, that is reductional division, and now these spores are formed which are N, that is haploid, and these haploid spores grow and develop into the gametophyte. We can see in the details in next few slides. So let us understand that how the sporangium is dehiscing, as we already seen in the previous slide, but again we can see, so you can get to know in detail as well as we can revise. So when sporangium is mature and weather is dry, the dissemination of spore taking place. Now how it is taking place, let's see. The annulus and stomium play very important role in dehiscence of the sporangium. As I have told you that annulus cells were there and stomium cells were there. So these with thick walled and these with thin walls, as you see, and they are helping in the dehiscence as they lose water. At maturity, the wall of sporangium start to lose moisture and dries up. At the same time, cells of the annulus lose water, and once they lose water, what happens? As a result of drying the annulus creates equal tension on the cell wall. This tension makes the annulus cell straighten up, and this results into breaking of the sporangium by rupturing the thin-walled cells of stomium. So the rupturing process is taking place and all spores are coming out. These spores initially are spore mother cells, that is 2N. They undergoes meiosis and then they become spores and they are haploid. Here you can see the same thing. This annulus is there, which is thick walled. Then this part you can see stomium, where elongated cells are there and they are thin walled. As they lose water, there is drying up, and this way they separate. So this big gap is formed there, and through this gap all the spores are dispersed. Now let us understand that how spores are germinating. So during favorable conditions, the spores are germinating. So they germinate only when conditions are favorable, means availability of water is there, that is considered as favorable condition. So exosporium breaks and endosporium grows into short germ tube. So if spore is there, it start growing like this. Tube-like structure is formed. After some time, they divide into unequal cells. Now, if this is a spore and if a germ tube is there, two unequal parts are there. One part is short and one part of that is long. The rhizoidal cell is small and colorless, which gives rise to unicellular rhizoids. We will see the picture of this in the next slide. The prothelial cell, by repeated transverse cell division, gives rise to green filamentous structure, and that green filamentous structure later on develops into gametophyte. Soon the division takes place in other planes to form green plate-like body. That body is actually called as a gametophyte. Due to more rapid division and growth of marginal cells, the plate-like structure gets converted into more or less heart-shaped structure, and that is called as a prothallus. Prothallus and gametophyte, these are synonymous words. Remember, prothallus and gametophytes are one and same, and they have their own rhizoids. Let us see. Here you can see gametophyte. This is the shape, which is heart-shaped structure. Rhizoids are there. These small structures, I'll change the color. These structures are there. These are actually antheridia, and these large structures are there. These are archegonia. So prothallus is gametophyte of form, as I told you. It is haploid, dorsiventrally flattened, green, delicate and heart-shaped structure. You can see this is heart-shaped structure. It shows a notch. Here you can see the notch. While ventrally at narrow posterior end produces unicellular hair-like structures called as rhizoids. So here you can see small rhizoids are there. The main function of a rhizoid is absorption of water and minerals from the soil and fixation of gametophyte. So this gametophyte is attaching to the substratum with the help of these rhizoids. The prothallus is one-celled, thick except toward the notch, where it is many-layered, forming a cushion-like structure. The cells of prothallus are closely arranged, thin-walled, and full of chlorophylls. Here you can see chlorenchymatous tissue is there, that is full of chloroplasts. They are autotrophic in nature. As you can see that chlorophylls are there, so it is photosynthetic, and obviously due to photosynthesis it is autotrophic in nature. Prothallus is monoecious. Understand meaning of this term, monoecious. Mono means single and ecious means bearing both. Both means what? At maturity it produces both male and female sex organs. Now male sex organ is what? Antheridia. These you can see here. And female sex organs, that is archegonia, you can see here in this part, and both are present in one plant, mono. That's why this is called as monoecious. Here again you can see the detailed structure. This is heart-shaped structure. This is notch. This peripheral structures are there. These, that is called as antheridia. Here at the notch, larger structures are there, that is called as archegonia. Individual antheridial structure you can see here. Within that sperm cells are there, and it is showed here that it is multiflagellated structure, and this is spiral structure. and this individual archegonium, here you can see that this part is called as a venter and this part is called as nick. This part is called as venter. This is egg. Somewhere here venter canal cells and somewhere here nick canal cells are also present. See how the fertilization is taking place. It takes place only in the presence of water. So water is one of the essential factors for the process of fertilization. Water is essential for anthrozoids to swim towards archegonia and to break open the nick of Prothallus is monoecious as you have seen. Both Antheridia and Archegonia are present in one and same gametophyte of Prothallus. As a rule, there is a cross fertilization. Remember, there is a cross fertilization. Now, how cross fertilization is taking place? Let's see. As Antheridia mature before Archegonia. Which mature first? Antheridia before Archegonia. When archegonium matures, the venter canal cell and nick canal cell disintegrate to form mucilaginous substance. This substance absorbs water and swells, and as a result, lead cells can break open and mucilage oozes out. So if this is the structure of archegonium, and here if then these contents are coming out here on the surface and they actually attract this multiflagellated spermatozoid or anthrozoid. The mucilage contains some chemical substances. This mucilage contains chemical substances which attract these swarms or sperms or anthrozoids or androcytes. Therefore, the fertilization takes place by the process of chemotaxis. Means what? This substance is certain chemotactic properties which attracting this toward this, and this kind of attracting sperm for the fertilization near the archegonium and within the archegonium, this process is called as a chemotactic movement and the phenomenon is called as a chemotaxis. The anthrozoids enter the venter through the nick and one of them penetrates the egg and fuses with the egg nucleus to form diploid nucleus or zygote. Diploid nucleus, it forms diploid nucleus and that is actually zygote. The zygote produces a cell wall around itself and forms oospore, and it is initiation of sporophyte. Let's see the details. Here you can see step number 1 where you can see the sporophyte of Nephrolepis. Then individual leaf of this is represented here. Step number 2. Not step, you can understand its part. Now this is actually a leaf entire. Then small part of this is represented here and this is actually a leaflet. Now if this part is enlarged, that you can see here, and there is a sorus, big structure. Within the sorus there are many such type of sporangia. Out of that, this one sporangium is there where diploid cells actually are there, but they undergoes meiosis and all haploid cells are dispersed here, that you can see dispersed, they are dispersing. Then this individual cell grows and this is called as a young gametophyte. This grows further and develop a matured gametophyte where here you can see archegonia and here you can see antheridia. Now these archegonia are represented here, and these antheridia are represented here. Now what happens? Within this male reproductive structure is there, within this female reproductive structure is there. That is, here you can see egg, here you can see sperm. Sperm or spermatozoid or anthrozoid or swarm, any name you can use. This undergoes fertilization. And after fertilization, there is formation of zygote. This is a diploid structure. This zygote grows into young sporophyte, and this young sporophyte further matures and forms mature sporophyte. So if you see, this is from this stage, I'll change the color. From this stage you can see up to this stage. This is diploid young sporophyte. This is mature young sporophyte. This is leaf, this is leaflet, this is sorus, this is sporangium. Till this stage, all things are diploid. Once they undergo meiosis, then all further things are haploid. N, 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 this N, and after fertilization, this N and this N comes together, and there is formation of 2N structure. So this way, the alternation of generation in Nephrolepis is taking place. So this way we have finished this chapter. Thank you.